So today we're going to finish up our discussion regarding depreciation methods, and we're going to look at the declining balance method of depreciation. Last class, or last time we spoke, we discussed the two depreciation methods, straight line depreciation and production method of depreciation. In this class, we're going to finish our discussion with discussing the declining balance method. And the declining balance method, it is an accelerated depreciation method where we take larger amounts of depreciation in the early years of an asset's life and smaller amounts towards the end of the asset's useful life. It basically assumes that the planned assets that we're discussing or that we're depreciating are going to be more useful to us or more efficient in the early stages of their life, and so therefore we'll depreciate a larger portion at that point in time. The declining balance method applies basically a fixed rate to the carrying value of the asset. And so therefore, because we're applying that fixed rate, there's going to be a higher depreciation charge in the early years and a lower amount in the later years. In many instances, businesses will use what we call the double declining balance method. And in that approach, we're going to first start out by figuring out what the annual depreciation rate would be based on the estimated useful life of the asset. And we would do that by taking the assuming that we're going to depreciate the asset fully over its useful life, so 100% divided by the estimated useful life in years, and we're going to get a rate. And so in this problem or example, we're saying that we have an asset of 100% value, and we're going to depreciate it over 5 years. So therefore, the annual depreciation rate would be 20%. And when we're going to do the double declining balance method, then we would take that 20% and multiply it by 2. So therefore, in the double declining balance approach, our asset is going to be depreciated at 40% a year rather than the 20%. And again, in this method, the depreciation is going to be greatest in the early years and decline thereafter. So depreciation schedule for an asset using the double declining balance method with a 5-year useful life is going to be basically that we're declining at a 40% rate, and the rate is going to be applied to the carrying value. So the table would look like this, which is slightly different than what we've looked at for the production and straight line depreciation methods. And we see here that we're going to take the cost in the first year, and the cost is going to be the carrying value in the first year. So we take that carrying value of $20,000, which was our purchase price, and we multiply it by the annual double declining balance rate of 40%. And then we get annual depreciation for that first year of $8,000. And our accumulated depreciation would also be $8,000. And we're going to take that and subtract the $8,000 from our initial cost of $20,000. We're going to get a carrying value at the end of the first year of $12,000. We're going to take that carrying value then, and now again multiply the carrying value in the second year. It's going to be $12,000. And that carrying value of $12,000 and multiply it by the 40% rate again, and that's going to give us a depreciation for the second year of $4,800, and our accumulated depreciation is going to be $12,800, which is simply our $8,000 plus our $4,800 is going to give us our accumulated depreciation of $12,800. And a carrying value of $7,200, which is our cost minus our accumulated depreciation. Third year, again, we're going to keep that same 40%. We're going to multiply the 40% by the $7,200 carrying value and get an annual depreciation for the third year of $2,880. And again, now add that $2,880 to our accumulated depreciation, bringing our accumulated depreciation to $15,680 at the end of the third year. And our carrying value is going to be the $20,000 minus the $15,680 is going to give us our carrying value at the end of the third year of $4,320. Now, then we go into our fourth year. In our fourth year, we take again our carrying value, multiply it by the 40%, gives us an annual depreciation of $17.28. Add that to last year's accumulated depreciation to get the end of the fourth year accumulated depreciation of $17,408. Subtract the $17,408 from the $20,000 original equipment cost, and we get a carrying value at the end of the fourth year of $2,592. Now, in the last year, if we were to take 40% of $2,592, that would be too much because the residual value for this particular asset is $2,000. We can never depreciate more than the estimated salvage value in a particular year. So in the last year, the way that we would calculate the last year is that we would take that carrying value of $2,592 and we would subtract the anticipated residual or salvage value of $2,000 and get the depreciation expense of $592 for the last or fifth year. That would bring our accumulated depreciation to $18,000, and it would bring our carrying value to the anticipated residual value of $2,000. And that $2,000 would be what we would carry that asset on the books for in perpetuity, indefinitely, until we actually sold or discarded that asset. Okay? And so next we'll do a little problem demonstrating how we would go about calculating the depreciation using a double declining balance method. So we're going to go to problem SE 10 on page 431 in our textbook.